Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. This is the place to learn about careers from the people who are actually doing the work every day. I'm your host, Brian Bratt, and this week's guest is 2018 Van Buren graduate Maria Trusty, who is a GLP Archivist. In this episode, Maria shares how a campus job at Ohio State led her to her career, the many places archivists can work, how her career goals have changed, and much more. Whether you are interested in a career as an archivist or are still exploring your career options, I hope that what Maria shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Thank you very much for joining us, Maria. And I'd like to start by asking you, how does a typical day look for a GLP archivist?
It kind of varies day to day depending on what I have going on. Usually I start my mornings by checking my email, see if anything came in when I came off or turned off my computer the night before. And then I have temperature monitoring for all of my facilities. We have to keep the records under a certain threshold for both temperature and humidity. So I start every day by checking those. We have an online system and I have a little sheet that I follow every single day. And that's kind of how I start my mornings. And then from there, I go anywhere from archiving electronic data. If I have forms that have been sent to me through DocuSign, I'll start going through those and figuring out where data needs to go. We have multiple electronic data options, so I can go into different systems and archive the data within there, or I grab files from people and put it in our own index that we have. So it kind of varies day to day, anywhere from I'll get requests, which means I have to call boxes back from offsite storage, and things like that, and then work with other people in different departments, to get their data, whatever they're asking me for. So it kind of varies day to day depending. My boss and I always like to joke that it's something new every day. You never know what's going to happen.
Right. So when we talk about being an archivist, you are responsible for maintaining records. Is that a
Yes.
good, simple description?
Yes, I maintain the records for our life sciences and research department. So I am a specialized archivist. There are two at my company. I am the one archivist for the life sciences research department. And then Amanda is my coworker, and she is the archivist for like the rest of other departments. But yes.
Okay. And you talking about electronic data. When I think of archives, I think of paper, old books, whatever else. But in the modern world, it's probably all or 95% of it is electronic. Is that more difficult to maintain than a book that's 200 years old? And again, I know temperature and all that, you have to maintain humidity. Are they equally difficult to maintain? How does that look?
To be honest, paper data is the more difficult to maintain because we have so much of it. And I am more in the business of, I have binders worth of final reports for studies and data binders. So I don't really have any old books. I'm more just stacks and stacks of binders and papers, and different things like that. But those are almost more hard to keep track of because I have thousands upon thousands of boxes. We put box labels on them so I can quickly look up the box number and find it, but it just takes up a lot of space.
Right.
Electronic data, the most difficult part is remembering like which system I have to go into, because we've got 5 or 6 different ones where it's like, okay, this data is from this system and this data is from this system. But once you my submission forms that I use that people have to submit to me to be able to archive things lays everything out for me. So it's usually pretty easy to maintain everything. It's just knowing and having control over multiple computer systems and also physical records, things in fridges, all the like.
Right. Organization is of the utmost importance in your position.
Yes, nobody checks my work. I am it. So it's got to be correct the first time. And if I catch it later, then I fix it really fast. But
So all those students out there that have 1,000 documents in Google Drive titled Untitled, um, yeah, they're not probably going to be good archivists someday.
no, no, I have everything titled down to whether or not I have it. I have already put it in our index system. I'll give myself notes. My desk is covered in sticky notes. So
When you were in high school, is this anything that was on your radar as a career, or what were your plans when you were leaving Van Buren?
I knew I wanted to go. The only two things I knew when I was leaving Van Buren was that I wanted to go to Ohio State and I wanted to major in English. And I said, I will figure out from there. I think when I left Van Buren, I was thinking about going into the publishing world. And that very quickly, when I got to Ohio State and the English department there, I realized that is not what I want to do. So it definitely shifted a lot through college about where I was going. And honestly, I didn't know this was fully an option. I knew about library sciences because my mom is a librarian, but I didn't know how far into the different realms of library sciences you could get into until I got a job at Ohio State's Special Collections Library when I was a student. So I worked in their rare books and manuscripts library, which is what got me a lot of great experience to lead to the job I have now.
Right. What was it about the publishing world that scared you a little bit, or made you think you weren't interested in that?
It was a mix of realizing I didn't really like to edit writing. Like I didn't really enjoy being an editor or something like that as much as I wanted to. And I much more enjoyed doing more like critical thinking in literacy. I minored in pop culture studies, and I learned that I really enjoyed going into books and seeing how they worked in pop culture and how they either were changed by pop culture or our culture in general had been um, like changed because of a book. My first class I took was all on Jane Austen, and we dived deep anywhere into the original Jane Austen books to Pride and Prejudice and zombies. And so it was, it was different ways of learning that I was like, oh, I'm much more interested in exploring books as a whole after
Right.
they've been published, not I want to create books.
Right.
And then I also went into medieval and Renaissance minor, and that was also like learning how physical books were made. I was like, okay, this is much more my realm.
Okay, that's interesting. And again, it all comes back to experience. I mean, every person I talk to, experience is what gets them to where they currently are, helps them
Exactly.
make those decisions. So you talked a little bit about working at the Ohio State Library, and it looks like you didn't start that until maybe like your junior year or senior year.
Senior year.
Okay, so prior to your senior year, did you think you were going to be going down this path to become an archivist, or is that something that really your senior year is when you figured that out?
It was really my senior year when I realized I think I want to go into library sciences. I didn't necessarily ever think archivist. To be honest, I didn't think archivist until I saw the job posting on LinkedIn and
Oh,
then ended up getting the job. um, but I knew eventually, and I still plan to, would like to get my master's in library science. So kind of senior year was when the pieces started falling into place of like, okay, I think this is the route I want to take. I just need to figure out where I want to go from here type of deal.
right, right, right. So you have that degree in English literature, so you did finish that degree.
Yes.
You talked about a degree in library sciences. If someone wanted to go down this career path, is a degree absolutely necessary? And then, if so, are there options other than library science? And obviously, you as an English major, could there be? Could a person have almost any major and end up in your career?
Probably. I know you would definitely, for my career, need at least a bachelor's.
Okay.
You're not going to get anywhere without a college degree when it comes to archiving or things like that. Most cases, you do need the master's in library science before getting some type of librarian or archivist job. I think I got lucky that I had the experience that I did as an undergrad. So they took a chance on me, I guess,
Right.
and hired me without one. And it just fit really well. But I think in some cases, you could probably find jobs that will hire you without a master's, because that's what happened to me. But a lot of places, especially if students are looking into like public librarianship or, the standard library sciences that you think of, they're going to want a master's in that, so that you have more experience, or how kind of the qualifications that they're looking for depending on what they want you to do.
Right. Right. So that is cool that you were able to, that experience at the library really had a big impact on
Mm-hmm.
them, showing them that you could do this. So at the library on LinkedIn, you said you help process new large collections of materials. So you brought in a bunch of material from the 60s and 70s. What are some cool things that you found, or that were, I guess, were these things donated to the library, or did the library go out and look for these things, or how did that work?
Yeah. So Ohio State Special Collections Library has a huge um, inventory of just rare books, manuscripts, kind of anything you could think of. Um, Anywhere from the Geneva Bible or an original King James Bible. And I think it's Shakespeare's second folio that they have. They have a bunch of books on Scientology, like a lot of different things all over the
Right.
place. And it was a mix of families who owned these rare books, donated them, or the curators of the library had gone out and purchased them at auctions or things like that. They have a couple classes now. I took 2 out of the 3 in the series. But the undergraduate students get to work with the curators and get a budget. And at the end of the semester, they get to bid and help buy a couple new pieces for the library. So it's a cool place where a lot of donations come in. So they do a lot of work with donors and families to say, like, thank you, this is what we've been doing with your donations and everything like that. But the library is public. Even if you're not an Ohio State student, you can schedule a appointment at the reading room and pull out anything from their inventory and look at it if you want to, which
Okay.
was always really cool.
Right. You're talking a lot about books. Do they have other items, or would that be, or like, paintings, etc., or is that more of a museum situation where the library doesn't really get into that?
Um, they do actually have some strange non-book items. I have a friend that still works there, and she said they have. I'm forgetting who she said, but she has some tap dancer shoes from
Okay.
like the 30s or 40s. They have a lot of like manuscripts from early medieval times, so just sheets of paper instead of like a full book.
Mhm.
But they definitely have some non-book things, but the majority is books.
Okay.
A lot of non-bookish items would probably be more towards museums, depending on where people wanted to donate them.
Right.
But if somebody's willing to give it to Ohio State, I don't think they're going to turn it down.
Right. Right.
um, and Ohio State also has the Billy Ireland, which is a whole other special collection library that's just on comics. So that's a whole other can of worms that they have as well.
As you think about your job and places where you could work, obviously
Mhm.
you're working for, describe it again for me. How did you say? Uh,
I work for a large independent research nonprofit that's based in Columbus.
okay. So we've got large businesses that need people like you. We've got
Mhm.
museums that need people like you. We've got libraries. Um, Really, people in your position, you are kind of Swiss Army knives. You are valuable to a lot of different people because you can catalog, archive, organize all of these different things and all the data. So, I guess, what are some other places where people like you might be highly valued?
One I wouldn't have thought about in high school is definitely legal offices. If anybody is ever interested in legal but doesn't want to be a lawyer, records management is a huge deal in those kind of things.
Hmm.
Any large company that needs some type of, somebody's got to keep track of their history and their records.
Right.
So most large companies are going to have someone like that, anywhere, Nationwide, Chase, those types of places are going to need them.
Right.
So that's definitely an option that you wouldn't normally think about, is if you're trying to go into become an archivist, excuse me. Like, you don't necessarily have to work in a library. You can work for a company. You can work for any type of corporation that needs some type of records management.
Hmm. Yeah. So a lot of flexibility, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. Obviously, you love your job. You seem very happy talking about it, but obviously not, there's no such thing as a perfect career.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of those things that you most enjoy? And then what are those things that are challenges, but yet you're willing to live with those because of the good parts of this career?
That's genuinely a kind of hard question, because I really do love my job. um, I think where I work, some of the really good perks is we work on a 980 schedule, which means Monday through Thursday I work 9 hours, and then every other Friday I have off.
Nice.
So I'm actually not working today because
Okay.
it's an off Friday. So that is definitely a huge perk. That's just kind of a not related to my job, but it keeps me very happy.
Right. Right.
um, I think some of the difficult parts could be working with clients or having last minute submissions. Can be really tough when, like, people are asking you for things and they give you no timeline to finish them. That is something that I've had happen. I'll have days where somebody's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm sending you 13 boxes worth of stuff today. Here you go." And I have to go, "Okay, I will take them. Thank you very much."
Mhm.
Or I'll have tight deadlines. A lot of things, and due to regulations, um, I'll have to archive something the same day that it was signed. So if something was signed that day, it has to be the whole study, the whole thing has to be archived by the end of the day. So trying to coordinate with both people who worked on the study, myself, our courier who has to take the boxes from one location to the other and get everything done in one day can be kind of challenging, especially if multiple are being done on a single day.
Right.
But the good side of it is that I have a lot of independence and freedom to kind of, within regulations, do whatever I want, in the sense of I can organize it how I see fit. I can, whatever makes sense to me and however I want to archive the boxes in whatever order, I have total freedom to do, which is very nice when I I have a system that I've developed by working there for the past 3 years. And it's like, okay, I know when something comes in, I do this first, then I go down the line, and it's like a pretty easy process, which I do enjoy.
Right. Right. Did you follow someone into this position where they already had a lot of protocols already in place, or was this something where you were kind of jumping into a new situation and you could create everything on your own?
There were definitely a lot of protocols and submission, like the forms, and a lot of things were already in place. The person who had this job before me unfortunately left rather unexpectedly and left them kind of in a lurch. So when I was hired, the backup archivist was the main archivist until they could hire somebody. So she was the one who ended up having to train me because the original archivist was not there.
Okay.
So it was a little bit of a mix of things had already been in place, and the overarching structure of the job was still there, but the details and some things I kind of had to work with my now backup, and my boss and myself kind of had to restructure and reframe the details of the job when I got hired.
Okay. So thinking about this career, have to have interpersonal skills, have to be able to talk to people and work with people and potentially work out conflicts when
Yeah.
they're bringing you, like you said, 30 boxes and it's 455 and so forth. Organization, obviously, of the
Yeah.
utmost importance. and no procrastination more than likely in this job because yeah, like you said, if it
Yeah.
comes today, it has to go out today and
Yeah.
all of that. So that's yeah, it takes the right kind of person to do something like this.
Hmm.
Yeah. What advice would you have to someone who hears about your career and says, "Hey, that's interesting. I want to pursue that." What advice would you have?
I would say gain experience throughout college if you can. Like I said, I think having that experience at the library at Ohio State really helped me get the job that I have. So if you are going to college, look for jobs as a student that could lead you towards a future career, something that interests you, but also um, be open to new career options. When I went to college, like I said, I had no idea that I was going to be where I am now. And so I think it's just kind of going in with an open mind. If you are looking for a job like mine, going in with the idea like, okay, I could end up anywhere. Let's see where it takes me. I think that is really, and taking chances, I think, as well. When I applied for this job, I did it on a whim. I said, I don't think this is going to work out. There is no way they're going to hire me with just a bachelor's degree. And within a week and a half, I had the job or something. It was a crazy timeline of how fast they hired me.
Right.
So I think just taking chances on even thinking, okay, if I can, the experience that I have, if I can explain it well in an interview, and at least kind of explain my reasoning why they should hire me even without a master's degree, I think that'll take you a lot of places.
Any your advice there for students, to get involved on campus jobs, again, library, but I
Yeah.
can imagine, any if you have any interest in history and
Yes.
things that have happened, you could go work for the sports information department. If you
Oh,
love
yeah.
sports, and I mean, basically, you could be a sports historian, and so I think it's interesting. There's so many aspects of your career that are related to history, related to libraries, and just all of that information. You
Yeah.
know how to handle that data because of the experiences you have, and I think that's really cool. Now, you talked about going back and getting your master's degree in library sciences. I'm assuming Ohio State offers that. Are there other schools? No, Ohio State doesn't offer that. Okay.
There is one school in all of Ohio that offers it, and it's Kent State, and that is it.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Do they have an online program that will allow you to get that
Yeah.
while you're working and so forth? Yeah.
A lot of library science programs are completely online at this point or
Okay.
offer a completely online option.
Right.
But there's a the American Library Association has a list of all the schools that are accredited. So you can just go down the list and say, oh, I want to be this type of librarian and specialize in this. And it'll pop out a list for you saying, here's all the schools that offer that.
Okay.
So
Okay. Interesting. Are there a lot of jobs out there right now for people like you, or is it tough to find a job?
it's definitely becoming a more saturated um, job field. I'll admit.
Okay.
I have a it, and it also kind of depends on what specialization you want to go in, because public libraries is going to be very different from K through 12 libraries from my job as an archivist.
Right.
There are definitely jobs out there right now. You just kind of have to look for them. But it is getting a little bit more saturated, I think. I have friends who are still kind of on that job hunt with looking for the same thing that I have,
Right.
or something in public studies or public library, excuse me.
Right.
Um, so I think it's definitely something that you can find a job in it, but it might be hard to find one that you are like, this is my perfect job. You
Yeah.
might have to start somewhere else and move your way through
Yeah.
to whatever you're looking for.
Right. Well, and I think again, like you said, experience. That is what can
Yes.
set a person apart from others and maybe help someone get one of those jobs in that tougher job market.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, and you've
Mhm.
kind of already answered this probably, but we'll see if you have any other nuggets for us. As you look back at your life and what you've learned so far about careers, what do you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were in high school?
I would have definitely, I'll admit, paid a little bit more attention on how to write a resume. I definitely think there were small ways that when I went into looking for a job, I worked with a recruiter that I knew through family, and they helped me kind of like specialize your resume. I think that was definitely something like when you're job hunting, it's like you want your resume to reflect the job that you want. So if that means changing wording per job and not sending the same resume out to every job,
Right.
You might have to do that, which was definitely something that I did not realize back in high school, that it had to be that specific per job.
Right.
I think also really just finding a place when you're looking for careers. I think it was kind of finding a place where you feel like you fit, even if it's something that you don't think you would originally go into. It's just like, well, this maybe seems interesting. Let's try it and see how it goes. And also location. I mean, if you have, I knew I wanted to stay in Columbus, so I was very much focused on Columbus. So it's like, okay, figure out other areas of your life of where you want to be and kind of try to steer path your career in that if you can.
Right.
But if you don't care if you want to move, then go all over. I think that's also awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Exactly. Well, Maria, I really appreciate you sharing all of this. Very interesting career. Again, not one that I think a lot of people are aware of or consider while they're in high school. So thank you for sharing all of that information. And hopefully some people will connect with you on LinkedIn and ask some additional questions. But regardless, good luck on the rest of your career journey.
Thank you.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.